All right, it's talking football, not just the NFL, but college football on Prime Sports Network. As we welcome in Marc Lawrence from the Playbook Experts YouTube channel. How's it going, Mark?
It's going just great, Greg, especially with the bowl games kicking off this week and the NFL playoffs right around the corner.
Yes, NFL playoffs. It feels strange as a Jet fan to actually be invested in football games that mean something in December. So,
And rightfully so. I mean, everything they've done this year has been warranted and deserving. I mean, there's nothing fluky about anything they've done this year. I got to tip my hat to Robert Saleh and the great job that he's done with the Jets this season.
yeah, they're not a finished product. The hope now is they can somehow just find a way to get playoff experience and then maybe be a contender next season. But look, there's a lot going on as far as the playoff picture in the NFL. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Before we do that, let's talk college football. And there's not a whole lot of intriguing, exciting. Oh, I can't miss that game between now and the next time we record our show next Thursday. So we've got about 12 games, starting with, I think you could pretty much say the New Mexico Bowl, and that is this SMU BYU game that's coming up on Saturday afternoon. SMU's line has started to go up because it looks like BYU's quarterback, even though he hasn't been ruled out yet, word seems to indicate from BYU that he's probably not going to play.
Yeah, I read just before we came on together here that he is going to be out. So I'm sure that's what all of this money's all about, is fading him in this particular situation. I also read that the quarterback who's going to be playing is actually their third string quarterback. They used a backup last week when he got hurt and he struggled. And this third string quarterback they brought in is a really highly recruited quarterback out of high school who passed for a zillion yards. This could
you
be
don't know.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, you don't know.
No, you don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with this offense that Kalani Sitake runs, it could be just a perfect elixir for him in a situation just like this. I always like BYU as an underdog anyway, and now that the line keeps shifting up and higher, I think this game's got upset potential written all over it.
Now, we want to remind everybody they need to check out the Playbook Bowl Guide. So it's available now at playbooksports.com. And you definitely do not want to be handicapping bowl games without it. You've got just about every piece of
the puzzle.
Yeah. Historical data, trends that you could ask for, conference, history, coaching records, all that kind of stuff. So anything intriguing at all before we move on from this one?
Well, just this, and I'll say that for people that have bought the bowl guide, one of the first comments I got was, and I thought it to be rather unique. He says, after reading, he says, well, I see where you've got Ohio State playing Michigan in the championship game in a rematch. He said, very interesting. Like Artie Johnson used to say, very interesting. So I'm tipping my hand a little bit there.
Okay.
But nonetheless,
Wow.
the truth be known is when we did the bowl guide, and we called those selections into place, I really wasn't even thinking that angle at all.
Why? The numbers just push you that way.
Exactly right.
Okay.
There's a lot of good numbers for Ohio State, which we'll get into it down the road.
Yeah.
One being, that you've never had a repeat champion, and you got that big bullseye in the Georgia Bulldogs back here right now, and you got a born-again chance for the Buckeyes. So there's a lot of into the mix there, but that would be, as he says, very interesting if these two teams meet again in the national championship game.
Yeah, as a Michigan fan, I'm not sure I'm looking forward to that. But it is, if you're looking at an upset during the entire bowl season, like if you had to, let's say you wanted to do some parlays in the NFL this week, and you wanted to you were looking for a nice money line play in bowl season, I think the safest one is Ohio State for a couple of reasons. One, is because they're the best team with the best odds. You're getting over 2-1 on the money line. But more importantly, nobody between now and then is going to say, nah, I'm not going to play because got the NFL draft to prepare for. Like, we already know that Njigba their top receiver, who hasn't really played with them at all this year. So he hasn't really been a factor anyway. So he's already not playing. They already disclosed the injury to the running back. So, it's because any of the other upsets you're thinking about a week from now or 10 days from now, who knows what could happen between now and then. And all of a sudden you're going, oh no, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah, you know the names of the players that are going to be playing in that bowl game. No surprises, no bailouts, no surprise announcements. You're going to get what you're going to get, and what you're going to get is a maximum effort from all four of those football teams. But you bring out an excellent point about the Buckeyes on a money line being the best football team that you're taking a money line price with, because obviously they're number 4 seed in the country,
Yeah.
and you're taking a money line price with them, and a pretty good money line price. So, excellent point.
Okay, now comes the Las Vegas Bowl. That is going to be also on Saturday. And the big one, of course, is Richardson not playing. And not only is Richardson not playing, there's other key players of Florida not playing. I see nothing on Oregon State's side as far as players sitting out. And that's because Oregon State doesn't have the type of SEC talent, NFL-type talent. But they're a 9-point favorite in that game. Look, Florida, if you like it, taking Florida at 3-1 on the money line, that could be intriguing. You do wonder how Oregon State reacts after their big win over arch rival Oregon. But, Oregon State, I think this is, look, I think the direction that Jonathan Smith's trying to go with the program, I think it's important for them to try to get that ugly taste out of their mouths from last year's loss to Utah State in the bowl.
Unquestionably, they had a terrific football season this year, and it would be probably a sad ending if they lose again that way in this bowl game here. But I think they can lose again in this bowl game here. Look at them the last 4 times they've taken on teams out of the SEC. They've not won any one of those 4 football games, and suddenly they're cast in the role of what might be a near double-digit.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know.
Come on. The other side is you got Billy Napier, the head coach from Florida, who's been a terrific underdog in his career, 17-6. With 6 consecutive cashes, taking points. And also, in our database, as it's called out in the bowl report, when you've got a new head coach for a football team, and he's a double-digit bowl underdog, they're 10-4 to the spread doing just that. So there's a lot of trends that come to Florida in this football game, and I realize Richardson's not there. The kid who's going to be there, his name is Jack Miller. He's a quarterback who transferred in from Ohio State. And it's Miller time right now in Florida.
Okay.
And
I'm sure they like that.
I'm sure they do. Right, exactly. They were thrilled when they signed him anyway to begin with. So no better opportune time than make your debut in prime time in a college football bowl game.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea for one of those upsets in bowl season. Okay, LA Bowl, Fresno State and Washington State. That line has gone up to 4. I'm a little bit surprised. The opening line, Washington State was the favorite. I really didn't think that was anything weird. I thought that was okay. I figured this was a pick'em type of matchup. One team from a Power 5, another from a Group of 5. I know Fresno's the champs, and Washington State was really one of the bottom Pac-12 bowl teams. But we know what kind of a season it was for Washington State. They had a very good season, very good spread season. Jake Hayner's the best player on the field for Fresno State. It's his last game. Yeah, I tell you the truth, at 4, I wouldn't touch Fresno. I mean, if I was thinking of taking the game, I'd probably take Washington State in the money line. I think that's the only appealing thing about this game.
Well, what makes it really, really appealing to me is there's a diversion of 2 different angles to look at in the football game. Number one, we've talked about it before. We called it out in the bowl report about how Pac-12 teams struggle in bowl games when they're taking on opponents that are coming off a win. 1 in 23 against the spread. That's a powerful number.
Okay.
1 in 23. I mean, my goodness. That's the that one side of it. You've got on the other side here, though. You mentioned Jake Hayner and how well this Fresno State football team has played, especially when he's been healthy this football season here. To me, it's between and betwixt in this football game. I could really I was wanting Washington State. I wanted to play them in a bowl game until we start delving into all these lousy Pac-12 numbers and so forth and whatnot, because I think Washington State's a really vastly underrated football program coming here. They've been really, really good. When they're when they're coming off a home game, the other guy's coming off an away game, and they're 7-0 the spread the last 7 times they've done stuff just like that.
Yep.
I think it's a real tough call here. I think this falls right in between the number here. We called it Fresno by 1 in the contest here, but we're jumping away from that awesome 23-1 angle in the football game here. And one of our guys put it best when he wrote up the game about that's our incredible stat, and he said that we placed this team in the incredible stat police lineup because we didn't know how to handle the truth, what to do with it in this particular game.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's why I said I didn't really like taking the game. But if I was going to take it, I want just throw it on the money line, because at least if I win, I've got something a little bit more than just a straight up bet, and maybe I could do something with that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't even like the game, so I think it's too tough to call.
I think it's a very tough call.
The lending tree, Rice gets in because their kids are pretty smart, and they were smarter than other schools with 5 wins. But good for them. They're headed in the right direction. Southern Miss is also headed in the right direction. They're 6-6, and they're a 6.5-point favorite. The logical assumption is, all right, Southern Miss, they've been a little bit better than Rice. I mean, it's still one of these games where, who wants to? I mean, these teams are in the same conference. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it used to be, right.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. Yeah, Southern Miss now in the Sun Belt. I don't know. It's again, like the last game we just talked about, I'd probably just go with Rice in the money line if I was going to take the game.
Well, if you look at the series from when they were together in the same conference, Southern Miss has struggled. There's 1-6 straight up into the number when they don't have a winning record, which is what they're coming into this game without. Also mentioned the fact that we got 17 6-6 football bowl teams this year. It's bordering on the ridiculous. And they being one of them. Well, anytime you've had a 6-6 bowl team that has revenge, because the last time they met when they were in conference, Southern Miss went down and they lost in that particular football game. They've gone 10-1 to the spread the last 11 times, which kind of comes to Southern Miss's support here in this football game here. But I'm kind of with you in this game here. I think Rice played their hearts out. They come up just a little bit short. They went 0-3 their last 3 football games going out.
And those were tough teams they were playing.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. It wasn't like they laid down in any of those football games.
Especially the North Texas game. I mean, they were close to pulling that upset off.
As a 14-point underdog, exactly. Which was close but no cigar. But, it ended up being a cigar because they got this bowl bid. And I think they're ecstatic to be here. Is Southern Miss maybe glad that they're in a bowl game? I don't know if they're ecstatic.
About the opponent, no.
Yeah, but I kind of think this Rice Howell football team can be ecstatic here, and I got to play them plus the points.
Frisco, no more Seth Luttrell. We've chronicled that for the past year. Winning all those games at the end of the season, last season, to get to the bowl, championship game this season, and then they fire him? I mean, something must be going on there that we don't know, because he's definitely earned the opportunity to coach again. So I don't know what's up there. So you got to deal with a new coach, an interim coach, I should say. And we know Boise's a better team, but what kind of attitude does Boise have? They lost the championship game. Okay, they're playing in a bowl game, but they also have a head coach that doesn't have a whole lot of experience. So I don't know. I mean, this could be a blowout, but this is one of those bowl games where if North Texas is close with Boise, I think we're going to point the finger and go, you see, Boise really they weren't up for it. They were dejected for losing to Fresno State, and this was like a consolation prize, and they're not really into the matchup. This is why it's tough to handicap some of these bowl games. I'm just going to say the same thing. You know what? I'm not putting 11 down on Boise. I'll tell you that right now. So if I'm taking a game, I'll just take the money line.
Well, I would take the points with North Texas here. You got, like you say, the interim coach, Phil Bennett. He used to be a head coach. And more importantly, they just signed their new head coach this week. And he'll be in the stands upstairs in the box watching the football game. And you got to think that the players would probably want to play for him in front of him to keep their jobs, to keep their positions and so forth and whatnot.
Sure.
His name is Eric Morris. And I kind of think with the boss watching, the new boss watching, you're going to get a pretty good effort out of North Texas here. I got to play them plus the points.
Myrtle Beach Bowl. Now, this is Marshall and Connecticut. And this is definitely out of those money lines I just talked about. Those were just, well, I don't really like the game. I'll take the money line. But this, I would definitely take the money line because why not? UConn has done a great job in this spot pretty much all season. And even though they failed in the Army game at the last game of the season, you can understand why. They had just become bowl eligible, so a letdown was definitely possible, and that's what happened. But now they're in a bowl. This is a huge deal. We know Jim Mora can coach, taking on a Marshall team that, I don't know, maybe they look at this as we got to play UConn. What kind of, it's a bowl game. That's nice. How motivated are we? So, yeah, I mean, I think UConn may be a pretty decent money line play, like a for real money line play.
I agree with this. They didn't get their due for half of the season. Then all of a sudden, it looked like Jim Mora's got this team's attention, and they played well enough to earn a bowl bid, which is really saying a lot. For what it's worth, first-year head coaches that are double-digit underdogs in bowl games, they're 10-4 against the spread, which goes to Mora and the Huskies in this particular football game as well.
Now you know why coaches get paid the big bucks. Coaches make a difference.
The coaches,
it's incredible.
That's the first spot I go to when I start handicapping a game. I'm going to tell you, okay? You go right to the coaches and find out what they can and cannot do. I'll tell you what they cannot do. First-year coaches, as we're talking on the Marshall side of this football equation here, when they're favored 5 or more points in a bowl game, they're just 16-26 against the spread. So you got a collision of two nice bowl trends here involving the coaches with a football team that, I'm going to tell you again, I'm going to beat this to death until we can't beat it no more, is thrilled to be here. That's UConn, okay? Absolutely thrilled to be here. Is Marshall? Marshall's probably glad to be here, but not thrilled to be here. I think this is a nice side for UConn in this football game, and knowing Greg DePalma, I could think he's going to have his money on the money line in this game with the Huskies.
Yeah, this would be the one. Absolutely.
Right.
Famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Eastern Michigan, San Jose State on the blue turf. So it'll probably be like 0 degrees and there'll probably be like 5,000 fans, but it's a bowl game. So Chris Creighton just keeps doing a great job. We laughed and scoffed in the preseason about some of the magazines. I forget which one I even saw. I saw it in, but they talked about, I don't know if it was Phil Steele or not. Might have been. They do a great job, but talked about how Chris Creighton's job might be on the line. I guess because he hasn't been able to get them to the championship game or something like that. And, I mean, do they even realize what this team was like before Chris Creighton came here?
It was unbelievable. I mean, the job that he's done, he deserves the reward. So too did Seth Luttrell for the job that he. And but I guess all that matters here, what it means is, what have you done for me lately?
Yes.
And that's really what the truth of the matter is. But they're going to take on here Eastern Michigan, a San Jose State football team that's really swirling against the spread. I mean, 7 straight point spread losses to end the football season. That's not good. Laying points, doing just that. It's kind of hard making cases for MAC football teams in bowl games because they're almost always outclassed. But I don't see that in this game here. I'm a big Chris Creighton fan. I admire the work that he's done before in the past. Heck, he got this team to a bowl game this year. What are you talking about firing this guy? Are you kidding me? There's no grounds for that. Would be injustice if something like that happened here. Give me Eastern Michigan plus the points in this game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, even if you just wanted to look, 0-7 to close out against the spread, and the other team ended up 4-0-1.
There you go.
Come on. So, yeah, if you're going to go with a team, maybe that's the way to go. The other thing, and I don't know if it's with Eastern Michigan, the other thing I always like to take a look at, too, because it's important, it helps the legacy of the program, is how many bowls has the program been in? Have they won a bowl in a while? And Eastern Michigan, they have only won once, the 87 California Bowl. So right there, I think that's more, even though they've lost four straight since then.
6 straight since then, yeah.
Oh, six straight.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though they've lost 6 straight since then, they, they're in a situation where, hey, we could do something that hasn't been done here in a long time. So that matters.
For sure. For sure. And they can also shut the traps and the yaps of the people talking about Chris Creighton.
Yeah, I don't know who those people are. I didn't
don't.
see it in the Phil Steele magazine, so maybe it's probably online in one of the places I was looking at, and it just makes no sense to me. None at all. I don't know what they were thinking. All right, but then again, you just never know. So, we didn't think, like you said, we didn't think Seth Luttrell was going to get fired. So,
Correct.
I don't know. A new AD comes in maybe, and who knows what's going on, and there's reasons. I'm sure. Okay, the Boca Raton Bowl, Toledo and Liberty, and this is a game that I kind of want to stay away from because I don't know what to expect from Liberty. They gave up against New Mexico State when Hugh Freeze left them. And I don't know if this is an opportunity for them to kind of right that wrong, or I just don't know how they feel.
Well, they gave up even before their last football game. They've lost 3 straight games in a row to end the season, all as double-digit favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm reading between the lines, it's telling me that they kind of got wind of the fact that Hugh Freeze is out there job shopping, if you will, giving up on this team. So if that were the case, and I'd love to hear a confirmation, anything on Whipper to that to confirm that, I would like Liberty's chances in this football game. I'm just given the fact that, hey, we've got this new lease on life. He's gone. We'll show you what we can do in play here. I think they're the right side of this football game regardless. It's hard to go in and back a team that finished as miserably as Liberty did. You don't see that very often in bowl games. You got Toledo feeling awfully good about themselves, having just won a MAC championship game. But you've also got a MAC football bowl team that's a favorite, and they're never any good. So give me Liberty or give me death. I'll take Liberty.
Yeah, I don't think you want to do that.
I'll take Liberty.
The last bowl win for Toledo was the Boca Raton Bowl. That was in 2015. So maybe this is a sign that they need to go play in the Boca Raton Bowl every year if they want to win in this one. But they dropped, Toledo. I mean, we talked about the bad way that Liberty ended, but the regular season ended with Toledo had 5 straight spread losses, and they were 2 and 3 straight up. And then they won the MAC championship game that changed everything, won and covered, but that was because Ohio didn't have their all-star quarterback in there. But still, they were able to take care of business. Liberty is 3-0 straight up and against the spread in bowls,
all time.
But that's Hugh Freeze, so
true.
Read it any way you want. Okay, again, it could be one of those games like I was saying before. I'm not touching the game, but if I did it, I might as well just take Liberty and the money line.
Well, let me say this real quick before we move on here, Greg. You said that's Hugh Freeze. That's the players on this team, is who it is.
That's true too. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So that's how they feel about that.
That's right. And wait for them to say, "Hey, it's not all Hugh Freeze."
That's exactly right.
Okay. Then in the New Orleans Bowl, South Alabama. Now, interesting here because the line was 7.5. It dropped to 4.5. I know that Western Kentucky's quarterback said he was transferring. Now, what's the latest on the line drop? Something happened to South Alabama, or did this kid say he's not transferring, or what's up here?
I'm not 100% certain on this. So it'd be interesting read here in the game here. I thought it was a little bit suspicious when South Alabama opened at -1 in the football game as the favorite, because I think Western Kentucky's had a really, really solid year. Everybody thought that this football team would disappear after the record-setting performance they had last year.
I found it.
Go ahead. Tell me.
Austin Reed takes a new NIL deal to remain at Western Kentucky.
Oh, there you go.
So he got paid to stay.
To stay.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the new world we're living in.
Yes, it is.
College football. So there's your line switch right there.
You know what this reminds me of? Go back to the days. Remember Tony Dorsett with the Pitt Panthers, the running back?
Yes.
And he said that when he was drafted in the National Football League, he took a pay cut to go to the National Football League. We're
Those were
seeing,
the days.
yes, and we're going to see the same thing here with all these NIL deals as well.
So there you go. Now, I mean, now that Reed's back, though, what do you think? Anything about the game? Because Western Kentucky is still a 170 on the money line, which is pretty good for a team like that. But South Alabama had a great season, and they the only reason they did not play in the championship game is because they lost that game to Troy.
Yeah, the move is kind of maybe it pushes it beyond the limit, if you will, per se. What did you say you saw the current number at?
It started at 7.5.
Wow.
Now it's down to 4.5 because the quarterback's back. South Alabama's playing in only their third bowl game. They've never won a bowl game. So this is
Well,
you would think that they're gonna be playing hard for a bowl game.
you would think. I think this makes it a very complicated game
Yeah.
because of all the intrigue surrounding it. We call it Western Kentucky by 2 in the bowl guide, only because I feel that they had the better season. I know South Alabama had a really good season, but I thought Western Kentucky's season was under the radar. So give me Western Kentucky by 2 in the game.
All right. I mean, yeah, I don't even know what to take. Again, it's one of those things where maybe it's not a bad idea to agree with you and take the money line. Armed Forces, Air Force, and Baylor. Baylor's a 5.5-point favorite in this one. Now, I will say, out of all I've been going a lot on these. I don't like it, so I'll take the money line, or I really like the money line. But this is one where I have to take the favorite. The only reason to me why Baylor wouldn't cover this is if they have no interest, which I don't know. But they're clearly a more talented team than Air Force, and Air Force did end their season strong, but they just didn't close games against some of the better teams, and that's when I take a look at the teams that they beat. I think the top win for them might have been San Diego State, their last game, which meant nothing for both teams. So you see where I'm going, is that when they stepped up in competition, and now they're really stepping up in competition.
Well, this is a Baylor football team that I think really is disappointed where they landed. Number one for the season that they had,
Yep.
6-6 season. They were the Big 12 champions last year. So you go from a Big 12 champion to a 500 season and barely make a bowl game. I don't think you're pumped up. I think Air Force is pumped up in this football game.
There you go.
This could be a 10-win season for them. They won the Commander-in-Chief trophy this year. And look at, if you will, what military teams do in bowl games as underdogs. Fabulous. When they're off a win, 29-9 against the spread. They're the number one team in the country in time of possession. Air Force is. If Baylor isn't touching the football, they can't score. If Air Force is chewing up the clock here, pounding the ball on the rock as they always do here, I think Air Force is an excellent side in this football game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, we know Aranda is a really good defensive coach, and that's the thing. Not only, I think part of the reason is that I think service academy schools are really good at dogs is because teams usually aren't motivated to play them. And then you have to be very disciplined on defense to make sure you stay in your lanes and you do the proper things regarding these triple option offenses. And if you're head's not in the game and you're not consistently disciplined, that's where you can get beat up on the ground by these military schools. So I could definitely see that being a factor.
I think you had it right when you came out of the gate when you said that teams playing military teams, and the next part of that equation to me is they don't know how to prepare for these teams.
Yeah.
They don't play them. They don't play these triple options.
No.
They don't know what they're going up against. They never practiced against it themselves. So it's going to be a whole new ball game for the Baylor Bear to take on a team like this. That's the other part of the equation here. If you were a triple option team and you're running it in practice and doing all those types of things, but that's not the case here, and I think that's another edge for Air Force in the game.
And Baylor 0-3 this year as a single-digit favorite.
Yep.
All right, Independence Bowl, and that's going to be a week from today. Lafayette against Houston. Houston's a 7-point favorite. Yeah, I think Lafayette should be happy to be here. They're not a very good team compared to last year's team. But Houston, yeah, I know that, of course, they would have liked to have been in the championship game, but realistically, they are where they are. That's the kind of team they are. But still, what kind of motivation do they have? I don't know. They have a very explosive offense though, and they're a 7-point favorite for a reason. Look, this is just one of those games where I think if Houston cares, I think if they want to be there, I think they're going to score in the 40s, and I think they'll probably cover.
Well, the question is, do they care? And like you said, Lafayette's thrilled to be here, and kudos to them. They lose Billy Napier; he leaves. New coach steps in and gets them right back to a bowl game. I think it's a big feather in their cap, doing something just like that. You've also got Houston's really struggled to the spread when they've been favored against teams that come off a win. The last 5 times, they've lost the money all 5 times. I'm not a big Dana Holgorsen fan, as you know. He's only 2-7 against the spread in bowl games in his career, with only 3 straight up wins. I don't think he prepares his team for bowl games, personally. I'm going to hold my nose and grab the points here with the Raging Cajuns.
Well, isn't he the coach that has like a bad record off of buys?
Yes.
So there you go. This is like a triple buy.
Well, they're in a triple bypass.
Yeah.
Therein lies the answer to their success in bowl
games. Yeah,
they're rested. Okay,
yeah,
that is a big part of the equation of how poor they play in bowls, because they don't play well regular season or postseason with rest.
The last one is going to take place on Friday as well, and that's the Gasparilla Bowl between Missouri and Wake. And I've said before, I really like the direction of the Missouri program under Drinkwitz. They've got a good young defense. They've got a young quarterback. Unfortunately, their star young receiver is transferring, so that is a big no-go there, so keep an eye on that. But this is Sam Hartman's final game for Wake Forest, and I think there should be something there as far as some sort of pride factor for Sam playing in his last game. So, I wouldn't want to go up against him in that situation. Overall, I think Sam's been there. I don't know if he started the last 3 bowl games, but he did win last year's against that 5-win Rutgers team for his first bowl win. But yeah, this is a tough one because, again, I think Missouri. I think if I was going to say which team really is looking at this as a building block, it's Missouri. They're looking at this as, yeah, we're okay. We're a bowl team. We're a young team. Let's win a bowl game. Let's use this as a springboard. Whereas Sam Hartman is just using this as, hey, it's my last game, because Wake Forest is going to be in trouble without him next year.
Well, which brings 2 sides to this football game. Number one, Missouri thrilled to be here. They upset Arkansas to become bowl eligible. They're here, and I think they'll be pumped up about that, and they should be.
Yeah.
Missouri's never played well in bowl games coming off a win, though. The last 9 times, they just 1-8 straight up with only 2-point spread cover. So it's not the best of rolls for the Tigers, if you will. But I'm a big believer in college football quarterbacks that are 4-year starting quarterbacks in bowl games. I think you get the very best out of them. We saw that last year with a Cincinnati quarterback. Ritter, okay? He got them to the college football playoff, okay? They didn't do well in the college football playoff because they were outclassed there, obviously. But he got them there, and he got them through the AAC to do just that. I think Wake Forest is the right side of this football game here. One, I'm a big Hartman fan, as you mentioned here. And 2, while they could be thrilled to be here in Missouri, they could also be a little bit fat about themselves. The fact that they did what they did. So give me Wake Forest minus the points. Win 1 for Sam Hartman.
All right. Now, again, keeping in mind next week when we record our show on Thursday, we will pick up with the bowl games. Probably start off with that Hawaii game on next Saturday, the 24th, between Middle Tennessee and San Diego State. But let's talk. We'll get about 10 minutes. Let's wrap up with the NFL. And by the way, if you want to find out all about the playoff scenarios and divisions up and down, the NFL standings, you can check out the show I did with Ryan Dunleavy a couple of days ago. So we have all playoff scenario talk with Ryan. on this channel. As far as the games, we've got the Saturday games now, and that's cool. So that's really nice to have 3 Saturday games, even though it's
Yes.
not a holiday. It feels like it. It's like an NFL holiday. So and 2 of those games I like, Minnesota and Buffalo. Minnesota's a 3-point home favorite. Buffalo's a 7-point home favorite. Minnesota is right now they're 6-0 this year as a home favorite, and they're 3-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 3 as a home favorite. Indy's lost 3 straight, 6-7. That Jeff Saturday magic is completely gone, and Minnesota needs to get back to playing good football as quickly as possible after getting beat last week, and probably should have got beat by the Jets the week before that. So I only have to give 3 points in this spot. Indianapolis is like, what, a 4-win team. So, yeah, I'm going to take Minnesota in that one.
Well, I'd be a little bit careful here on Saturdays. We talked about this in our podcast. Victor King called this out about how poorly home favorites on Saturday football games in regular season do. I mean, terribly. I'm talking like less than 30%.
And why do you think that is?
It's, you know what it is? It's all about being out of rhythm. You know, you're used to playing Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, sometimes a Thursday, sometimes a Monday. But I mean, you've been there and done that, but you haven't been there on a Saturday, okay? And all of a sudden, whatever your body is used to doing on Saturdays, maybe the day before your regular scheduled game, it rests, it gets ready, and now they're playing instead. I'm just trying to analyze that and figure out why, but it is a bad number. The thing I don't like in this football game is how poorly the Minnesota Vikings have played. A 10-win team who's allowed more points than they scored for the season here. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The worst defense in the National Football League, ranked 32nd dead last, the Minnesota Vikings. And how could you pass Saturday on Saturday? Jeff Saturday on Saturday.
Well, I say this.
A little facetious, that's all.
To me, if you like the Colts, I think you should stay away from the game. I can't imagine anybody like actually putting their hard-earned money on the Colts at this point in the season, unless it's a money line, which you're not going to get much on that one. All right, and Buffalo. Look, the reason I'm taking Buffalo, this one is about we mentioned this when Buffalo lost that game to Miami earlier this year, how hot it was, and Josh Allen was just totally erratic. You could tell. The heat got to the team, and that's what happens. That's the home field advantage from Miami early on in the season. Well, now they're getting it because it's December in Buffalo, and it's going to snow. So, look, I don't even need to see any of the records, the spread marks for these Florida teams in snow weather conditions because I know what they are. They're bad. So I'm taking Buffalo minus the 7.
I agree. You've also got a Miami football team here that looks like they're coming apart at the threads. Not playing very good football at all, especially the last 2 weeks. This is the third of a 3-game road trek on the West Coast, warm weather cities, now into a freeze bowl site here in Buffalo. I think this is an ideal spot for Buffalo in the football game. I don't like laying this many points to a football team that could be in the playoffs, like the Miami Dolphins could well be in the playoffs, but they need to get their act together here real soon because they won't. I can only look one way with this game, just with you, with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, they get the Packers next week at home. Miami does, and that's the easiest game of the rest of the season. Then they're at New England, and then they end the season at home against the Jets. So all of a sudden, Miami they got to get a win before they're in with the Patriots and the Jets and the Chargers as just a bubble wild card team because they looked safe just a couple of weeks ago. By the way, Buffalo's beaten Miami the last 3 years in Buffalo by a 113-58 margin, and thanks to the Playbook magazine, Miami is 0-9 against the spread in their last 9 as division road dogs off a straight-up ATS loss. As far as the Sunday games that piqued my interest, I'm taking I'm taking Pittsburgh against Carolina because Carolina hasn't been a favorite all year. So they don't know what it's like to be a favorite. If you take a look at their recent history, they're 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 as a home favorite. Even though they've got all this momentum, and I completely get it, but Pittsburgh still has, J.J. Watt on one side, and they got they're still very well coached. Plus, How about this? Carolina 0-3 versus the AFC North this year. That puts them 1-8 straight up, 2-7 against the spread all time versus the AFC North when they have a losing record, care of the Playbook magazine. So I'm taking the Steelers as a dog.
You can understand that. They haven't really given up per se, even though they are going to officially have their first losing season under Mike Tomlin. But Tomlin's teams don't raise white flags, and I can completely get that. What I don't like is the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh here. They brought Trubisky in when Pickett got hurt, and he stunk up the joint.
I can't believe that he could be that bad. I just.
And the players are sounding on him. The players are demanding that they play Mason Rudolph this week. Okay, Mason Rudolph. You know how bad he is.
I know, but he can't be worse.
Well,
than that performance last week, that's for sure.
Yeah, that performance really stunk it up. But so I'm a little bit concerned about the quarterback situation there, and for that reason, I'm going to let this game go.
The two dogs I like, Atlanta and Jacksonville. So these are going to be the two dogs I'm going to go with. Both at plus 170. Desmond Ridder making his first start. We talked about those backups coming in for their first game. Not only that, but this could be their quarterback of the future. A lot's going to ride on what happens with Ridder over the last 4 games. That will give Atlanta pause, or maybe not, on whether or not to use their first-round draft pick on a quarterback in the draft. So keep an eye on that. That's going to be important. And this is also coming from the Playbook Guide. Atlanta has covered 10 straight as a division road dog, taking on an opponent off back-to-back straight-up losses. They're 1-0 in that spot this year. The Saints are a 4-point home favorite. I'm taking Atlanta to win the game outright as a 4-point dog at 170 on the money line.
I would not disagree. New Orleans has got problems here that I don't think people are really wanting to address and tear apart.
Including the fact they'll have a new head coach next year.
On top of it, Andy Dalton looks like he's not going to be around forever. But, to his defense, last week I saw him. He put quite a few passes right on the money, and his receivers dropped the football. It's the Atlanta players that are really, it's the New Orleans players that are really stinking up the joint. Not so much Andy Dalton that way, or the coach Dennis Allen, who's made some bad decisions, and he'll be gone. But I'm with you. I like Atlanta in this football game. The quarterback gets his first chance to play here, and again, he's not like he's a brash 20-year-old kid coming out of college. He was a 4-year starting senior. Okay, yep. And so now he's got some savvy veteranness about him. Maybe and not experience, but at least a veteran, and he's mature.
Well, look at Brock Purdy.
There you go. Exactly right. Yeah, a little Purdy.
Yeah, the little Purdy who has looked like same thing. Like, hey, yeah, I've been a 4-year starter in college.
Yep, exactly right. We're seeing what that's doing for San Francisco.
Jacksonville also. Dallas very fortunate to win that game last week. Obviously, they didn't care, but this is potentially also a look-ahead game because Dallas will be taking on the Eagles next week. So that's a big one. Jacksonville, meanwhile, still in the playoff hunt if they can win the AFC South. They are 2 games behind Tennessee. If they can get in the next 3 games, if they can get within 1 game of Tennessee, which is manageable, 3 games, you get within 1 game. The final game of the regular season, Jacksonville versus Tennessee. Jacksonville's already beaten Tennessee. So if they sweep Tennessee, they own the tiebreaker and they win the division. So this is a very important game. They'll be at the Jets, by the way, on Thursday Night Football. They've been very up and down in the last 5 games, though, Jacksonville. So if they're going to go to the playoffs, they got to start stringing some wins together. They're 3-0, straight up and against the spread as a home dog this year. I'm taking the Jags to make it 4-0.
Well, you got a head coach here also in Doug Peterson that is really, really good in this particular role that he happens to be in. We outlined it in the Playbook newsletter this particular week. Let me see if I can bring this up because this is really worth conveying to our listeners out there. Let me see if I could do this. There we go. One more time.
By the way, while you do
Okay.
that, the
Yeah.
Arizona-Denver game will be a battle of Colt McCoy and Brett Rippon. Those will be your
Well,
starting quarterbacks in that one.
I don't know if we're keen on that.
No, nobody's going to be watching that one.
No, for sure. Okay, let me get this guy right here, and we can tell you what we know about Doug Peterson. And I'm blowing it because I'm trying to hurry through
And by the
this.
way, he is a former Eagles coach, so he knows a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, that's part of what I'm trying to bring up here is Peterson and what he did with Dallas. Let me.
Oh, he's got a good record against them.
Uh, yes, he does. He's got a good record against them. And where did I blow all this at?
By the way, did you realize the Patriots Vegas game was Belichick versus Josh McDaniels?
Wow. Yeah, his former coach, huh? Or
Yeah.
his former assistant, if you will.
How about
Wow.
that Raider Ram game last week?
The Raider Ram game?
Yeah, the Baker Mayfield game, the Thursday night game, the
Yeah.
Raiders and the Rams. All they had to do up 16-3 was close the deal, put the Rams away, and they were right there in the thick of the playoff wild card race. They have gotten themselves back into the playoff race, and at 16-3, they gave up 2 touchdowns in the last 4 minutes of the game to Baker Mayfield.
Unbelievable, huh?
I can't even imagine being a Las Vegas Raider fan this season. I just can't. I mean, the amount of losses, bad losses, last minute losses they've had this season is like worth 7 years to a regular team.
Here we go. Doug Peterson, we finally found it in the archives here, okay? In his career at home in the National Football League, off a straight up underdog win, which is what he's coming into this particular game here. He is 7-0 straight up and 6-0-1 to the spread to come right back and do the same thing again.
There you go.
Those are straight up wins as underdogs, okay?
That's it. I
Yep,
like it.
and
Even better.
he's also 3-0 straight up in the spread at home against Dallas when he's coming off a division game. So there's some Peterson numbers here that also go to this. But I think the biggest factor in handicapping this game is the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are on deck next for the Dallas Cowboys.
Like it. All right. And then the other 2 games at 4 o'clock to close out are 2 of my best picks this week. I like Cincinnati as my top pick. I don't know what's going on in Tampa Bay. If you look at the last 11 games for both teams, I mean, all you have to do is look at this and you would know who to pick. Tampa Bay is 4-7 straight up, 1-10 against the spread, while Cincinnati's 9-2 straight up, 10-1 against the spread. So that's what's going on the last 11 games for the Bengals and the Bucs. I've been riding the Bengals now for like the past 5 weeks. I'm sticking with them. Matter of fact, I've put money already on them at 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think they're back. I think I think they're being forgotten because of the Chiefs and the Bills. I just like the way they're playing once again. And they're a 3.5-point favorite, so down to 3 against Tampa Bay. And I also like the Chargers giving 3 against Tennessee, and Chargers off that big win against Miami. Tennessee's dropped 3 straight, and as I said, if they don't win this week, they might be in a situation where all of a sudden Jacksonville's breathing down their necks.
The one thing you're not going to like to hear is a Tom Brady stat that is unbelievable. At home, when not favored, off a loss, 16-3 straight up, 18-1 against the spread. 10-0 straight up in ATS the last 10 when he's not a dog of 7 or more. Now, I realize the bulk of those numbers were with Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. He's got a couple of numbers hanging in here with Tampa Bay in this particular situation here. But I think you've got Cincinnati coming off of some big, big football games. They're playing some really good football, as you mentioned. And yes, we do have 2 teams going in opposite directions here. But this is do or die time right now for the Tampa Bay Bucs. They're barely clinging to that number 4 playoff seed because they're still atop the NFC South.
They'll still be atop the NFC South if they lose. That's how bad it is.
That's how bad they are, or it is the situation exactly. But they're clinging, and as long as they're clinging, and I think you have to admit that they were the most embarrassed team in the National Football League last week. Tampa Bay was. in that loss. So when you lose as bad as they did and you're looking as good as Cincinnati is, it's what I call the ABO theory. Always beware of the obvious because it looks too easy for Cincinnati in this football game. Give me Tampa Bay.
Well, yeah, but again, as I said, since I've been with them for the past month or so, I'm definitely not jumping off
I understand.
now. And I just look. I think if Tampa Bay beats Cincinnati, that is probably all they're going to need to do. It'll sew up the South because they haven't done any of that in a while. I think the last win that they had that we all thought was a turning point was when they beat Seattle in London. Oh, they looked good. You know, maybe they're back, and then nothing. They barely beat the Saints. They had to come back late to win that. They get blown out by, Brock Purdy in San Francisco. So it's like, I don't know what they're just. And look, to me, it's obvious, and that's the coach. And we talked about this earlier this season. There's no more Bruce Arians, and you handed it over to Todd Bowles, and he's done a terrible job. So, and that ain't changing anytime soon.
No, it's not.
And then the Chargers against Tennessee, like I said, I'm taking the Chargers minus the 3. After beating the Dolphins, the Chargers, they must win this football game because they've got momentum. They've got an easy schedule the rest of the way. And this would put them in a great spot to try and sew up that final wild card spot.
Well, you're probably asking the wrong guy when it comes to a Tennessee football game because I think I'm 0 for the season. On or against Tennessee. We talked about them a bit in our podcast, but I'm still a little bit reticent about the Chargers and their rush defense. It's horrid. It's 5.5 yards a carry, and Derrick Henry is just a grenade waiting to go off when he sees a defense like that can't stop the run. So lean to Tennessee for me in this football game, and if I don't win again, will I be surprised? No, I won't be surprised.
It'll probably be like a 27-24 game. Probably be a lot of scoring in that one. All right, so that'll wrap it up, Mark. Next week, we'll do it over again with our bowl games. We'll be doing that all the way through to the playoffs. And then we'll be 3 weeks away from the end of the regular season in the NFL. So, by the way, Zach Wilson's starting this week. You know that, right?
I got the word, yes, right.
So,
that game kind of teetered. It went at a point to the Jets favored. In the middle of the week to 1.5 Jets. Now it went back the other way because Zach Wilson's starting.
Yeah, so it's Jet Nation is just they're like this with each other because you got one side that has already given up on Zach Wilson. He's played 20 games and they think he's the worst quarterback ever, and then they got the other side, because the media has this love fest with Mike White. They love the kid because he's a backup and he takes punishment and all this stuff. So they bring it on. They make it. They get the blood boiling with the Jet fans going out against each other. And I try to. It's not easy because the Jet fans the way they are. But it's like, guys, man, you're 7-6.
Take a chill pill.
What are you doing? You haven't been to the playoffs in 12 years. Why are you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. And I don't even know why you would be against your quarterback anyway. All right, if Zach Wilson doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. But why, there's so much hatred for him. It just shows you how crazy social media is. There's a lot of crazies out there.
All I can say is this I don't think there's a better spot in the National Football League than to have a starting quarterback who lost his job get his job back again in that very first start.
Yeah. This is like that. It could go one way, or it could be, all right, take a sip, buddy. You're not coming back until next year. Because if he blows it at home in New York, see, if it was on the road, it'd be a little less pressure. But if he has like a bad series or two, you know what you're going to hear in the stands.
With the defense, it's 100 yards better than Detroit's is on top of it. There's no excuses.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's going to be, but you're right. If he ever wanted that free pass, that resuscitation pass of you got a lifeline here, take it.
Yes, he does.
We'll see if he does it or not. That's definitely going to be the storyline. But hey, you know what? Detroit, that's a story. Good for them. They still have an outside chance of making the wild card berth. That'd be nice. But they may have to beat the Jets and run the table to do it. I think they could still do it if they lose to the Jets and then win their next 3, but we'll see. It's just a nice story.
One game at a time,
Yeah.
yes.
Mark,
Right.
appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, my pleasure as always, Greg. Be well, stay safe, and enjoy the games.